The June 16th, Doug at Linville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I thought a lot about whether or not I would even speak on this, but let me say this. We have a constitutional convention every time that a Supreme Court justice is nominated to the court. Every single time. Antonin Scalia, prior to his death, discussed how there was always such a fight after he had been appointed to the court and confirmed in confirmations. And if you'll recall, not too long ago, they were going back through somebody's calendar, a nominee's calendar, now Justice of the Supreme Court's calendar, from when he was 16 years old. The man kept his calendars. He wrote down just about everything he did. Now, there's an additional nominee to the court, and they're trying to do the same thing. Why? Because every time that you nominate someone to the Supreme Court of the United States, it essentially amounts to a constitutional convention. What is it that they're going to say? And that's the words of Antonin Scalia, by the way. This living, breathing Constitution fallacy has meant that whatever the whims or wills of a particular justice of the Supreme Court are now going to be what the Constitution says. A convention of the states can fix that. It can fix that. It can more clearly define what it is that the Constitution says. And I think that's eminently desirable. Nominees to the court used to be nearly unanimously confirmed. Then you had Bork, you had several others. We're about to see that exact process take place once again in Washington regarding the newest nominee to the Supreme Court. And why does it have to be that way? Well, it shouldn't. But interestingly, when you're asking someone about how they would interpret the law or interpret the Constitution, if it's a judge, they have to be very careful about how they answer. And so there's a lot of questions that you have, right? And they can't very often give you a direct answer. So maybe that should stop. If you all will remember, just 2 years ago, there was talk about adding new justices to the court because people were not happy about the current potential interpretations of cases. They were worried about stare decisis. They were worried about all these sorts of things. Now, I don't see anyone saying that, well, you know, maybe we just shouldn't put anybody else on the court. Maybe just as justices, you know, pass away or retire, that it should end. Those amount to many constitutional conventions, but with a whole lot of ambiguity as to what it is that they will interpret. This process involves any number of states having to go to a convention, propose these, and then coming back to all of us with these amendments and coming back to the people. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's very, very simple. Should we try to amend the Constitution by packing the United States Supreme Court, by adding justices? Probably not. But some of the very same...
Do you want to state the point?
Yes, he's talking about a whole different process. He's not talking about the resolution. We're talking about this Constitutional Convention, Article 5. He's talking about something that's outlined in the Constitution about how to pick a Supreme Court justice.
He is. This is a good time to put some ground rules on this debate. So Jim will sustain the point of order. Jim will rule the point of order as well taken. The chair will also note that we do have several speakers who wish to address this topic. So the chair will permit debate on the structure of the Constitution to the extent it's relevant to the members' consideration of the decisions about your vote on this resolution, but the chair will not entertain a discussion about the Constitution in general. So to the extent that all members who wish to be recognized need to discuss any provisions of the current United States Constitution in your debates on this resolution, that's permissible, but that's all that's permissible. So with that in mind, June 16th is recognized to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Constitution does not require that there be only 9 justices on the Supreme Court of the United States. But you want to know what could? An amendment to that Constitution using an Article 5 convention, much like we have before us right now. The debate here has went along the lines of, my goodness, what else could happen? And I would argue that as new members are added to the court, that exact same debate happens. And yet, we don't seem to oppose just generally adding anyone there. Mr. Speaker, I think that the Constitution has been interpreted in different ways under different justices of the United States Supreme Court. I think that an Article 5 convention has the opportunity to more clearly define what the Constitution is, what it means, what it says, and whether or not you're a textualist. It could even go into saying, hey, this is what the text of the Constitution says, and we want to limit the interpretation thereof to what it meant at the time it was ratified. That is exactly the point here. That is exactly the point here. We argue the Constitution in this building all the time. Whether a bill is constitutional, whether it's presumed constitutional, I would argue to you, Mr. Speaker, that an Article 5 convention is well-founded and that there are sufficient protections in place that any amendments to the United States Constitution must be overwhelmingly passed by red and blue states prior to its adoption. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I urge adoption of the resolution.
On this question, there are 77 ayes, 19 nays, and 4 members absent. A majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that resolution adopted. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Is there further?
I'm here live in Philadelphia at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. When you hear the phrase lives, fortunes, and sacred honor, these are the folks we should think of, those who anonymously gave their lives. Well, today you have a chance to volunteer. You need to volunteer for conventionofstates.com, the movement that's going to save the country. These folks are willing to step up and give everything. We need you to give just a little bit. Go to conventionofstates.com and volunteer today.